The question hit me across the Thanksgiving table like a slap I should have seen coming. Why didn't you come to your sister's baby shower? My mother's voice cut through the dinner conversation loud enough that my uncle stopped mid-bite. Felicity looked up from her plate, eyebrows raised, trying not to smile. The whole table went quiet. Waiting. Watching to see if I'd crumble the way I always did. But something in me had changed. I set down my fork slowly, looked my mother dead in the eye, and said, I had one too. You were all invited. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. Because they knew I wasn't lying. What they didn't know yet was that I'd brought proof. Let me back up. My name is Jasmine, and for 31 years, I've been the invisible daughter. Not because I wanted to be, but because my older sister Felicity learned early how to take up all the oxygen in a room. She's 3 years older than me, and from the day I was born, I was her shadow. Her backup dancer. The kid who got good grades while Felicity got standing ovations for doing the bare minimum. My mom, Carol, she never outright said she loved Felicity more. She didn't have to. It was in every family dinner where Felicity's college stories took up an hour while my work achievements got distracted. That's nice, honey. It was in how my mom's face lit up when Felicity walked into a room versus the polite smile I got. I remember being 14, winning a regional art competition. First place out of 200 entries. I came home so excited I could barely breathe. My mom was on the phone with Felicity, who'd just gotten asked to prom. By the time she hung up, my news felt small. Unimportant. She smiled and said congratulations, then immediately started talking about what dress Felicity should wear. I stood there holding my certificate, and that's when I learned. My accomplishments were footnotes in Felicity's story. My dad, Martin, he noticed. I know he did. But confrontation wasn't his thing. He'd give me these little looks sometimes, like he wanted to say something, but he never did. Once, when I was 16, he found me crying in the garage after my mom forgot my birthday dinner because she was helping Felicity move into her new apartment. He sat next to me on that cold concrete floor, quiet for a long time, then said, "Your mother loves you. She doesn't always know how to show it." I wanted to scream that love isn't supposed to be a guessing game. But I didn't. I just nodded and wiped my face. It's hard to be mad at someone for being a coward when you spent most of your life being one too. I learned to read silence the way some people read faces. I knew what kind of day it would be based on how my mom's heels clicked down the hallway. I knew when Felicity was about to ask for something by the way she'd say, "Mum," with that little sing-song lilt. I knew when to make myself smaller, quieter, less. Growing up like that does something to you. You learn to expect less. You learn that your needs come second. Or third. Or not at all. But I kept trying anyway. That's the pathetic part. Fast forward to now. I'm living in Denver, working from home as a freelance brand designer. It's a decent life. Quiet. And 6 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. The father wasn't in the picture. That's a whole other story, but the short version is he made it clear kids weren't part of his plan about 5 seconds after I told him. So I was doing this alone. 6 months along now, and honestly, some days my back hurts so bad I can barely stand. The baby's pressing on nerves I didn't know existed. But I was managing. Building a nursery in my spare bedroom, painting the walls a soft yellow because I didn't know if it was a boy or girl yet. Reading baby books at 2 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. Trying to figure out how to be enough for this kid when I'd spent my whole life feeling like I wasn't enough for anyone. When I told my family about the pregnancy, my mom said congratulations. Then, in the same breath, she said, "Oh, did you hear? Felicity's pregnant too." Like my news was just the opening act for Felicity's main event. I remember sitting there on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, feeling that old familiar ache. The one that said I'd never be the priority. Felicity got on the video call, hand draped over her barely there bump like she was posing for a magazine cover. She had this glow about her, this confidence that came from knowing she'd always been the favorite. "We're going to be pregnant together," she said, like it was some cute coincidence instead of my news being immediately overshadowed. My dad mumbled something about being happy for me, but his eyes kept darting to my mom, checking if he was allowed to care. I told myself not to expect more. But I did anyway. That's why I went all in on my baby shower. I wanted something small but special. Something that felt like people actually gave a damn about me for once. I designed these invitations myself, cream cardstock, watercolor accents, pale blue ribbons. I spent hours on them, getting every detail right. I wanted them to feel personal, warm, like I was asking people to be part of something that mattered. I included a handwritten note in each one. Just a few lines about how much it would mean to have them there. Looking back, that might have been the saddest part. How hard I was trying to make people care. Then I took the whole stack to the shipping store, triple-checked every single address, and watched the clerk scan them through. "You're all set," she said, smiling. "Should arrive in a few days." For the first time in forever, I let myself hope. I imagined my mom there, helping me set up, maybe offering advice about what I'd need for the baby. I imagined my dad in the corner, awkward but present. Even Felicity, making it about herself but at least showing up. A week later, the tracking page kept showing the same word over and over, delivered. But nobody said a thing. No texts. No calls. Nothing. I kept checking my phone like an idiot. The group chat stayed silent. The little scene timestamp just sat there, mocking me. I told myself maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were just busy. I made excuses for them the way I'd been doing my whole life. The morning of my baby shower, I woke up with this weird feeling in my chest. Like maybe today would be different. The sun was out, bright and warm through my apartment windows. I took it as a sign. I spent the whole morning setting up, string lights across the living room, a dessert table with cupcakes I'd stayed up late baking, soft music playing in the background. My best friend Quinn showed up early with muffins and this look on her face that tried to be cheerful but couldn't quite hide the worry. "They'll come," she said, squeezing my hand. I nodded. Because what else do you do? By noon, the place smelled like vanilla and lemon cleaner. Everything was ready. Perfect, even. I'd put out little name cards at each seat. One for my mom. One for my dad. One for Felicity. Like if I prepared a space for them, they'd have to show up. I kept glancing at the door every time the elevator dinged. My heart would jump, then sink when it was just a neighbor walking past. An hour passed. Then two. A few friends showed up, co-workers, people from my building, Quinn's sister. They were kind. They brought gifts. They smiled and ate cupcakes and played the silly games I'd planned. But the whole time, I kept watching the door, kept checking my phone under the table. Nobody from my family showed up. Quinn put her hand on my back when she caught me staring at the hallway again. "Maybe there's traffic," she whispered. But we both knew it wasn't traffic. Denver traffic is bad, but it's not entire family misses your baby shower bad. I checked my phone again. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. The group chat hadn't moved since yesterday. I sat there, smiling at the friends who did show up, pretending my chest wasn't caving in. Pretending I didn't feel like that invisible kid all over again, standing in the corner while everyone celebrated Felicity. One of my coworkers asked if my family was running late. I lied and said they couldn't make it. She gave me this sympathetic look that made me want to cry right there. When everyone left and Quinn helped me clean up, she tried to make jokes. Tried to keep things light. But after she was gone and I was alone with boxes of unopened gifts and leftover cupcakes, the silence in my apartment felt like it was crushing me. I sat on the couch, hands on my stomach, and the baby kicked. Right then. Like it knew. And I started crying because I realized this kid was going to grow up watching me get erased too. Watching me disappear. Learning that we don't matter. That's when I knew I couldn't let this go. Not this time. I forced myself to breathe steady so the baby wouldn't feel my heart racing. I didn't want my kid's first experience of me to be this feeling of not being enough. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Felicity. "Next time, plan earlier, sis." 8 words. No apology. No explanation. Just condescension so casual it made my blood boil. Something clicked in my brain. This was too confident. Too smooth. Even for her, this level of dismissiveness felt wrong. Like she wasn't just being thoughtless, she was being deliberate. I opened the baby registry to see if maybe they'd at least looked. Not opened. Nobody had even clicked the link. Then I remembered the tracking numbers. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the shipping receipts and started tapping through them. Delivered. 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 Every single invitation marked the same. But now I noticed something I'd missed before. Signed for. My heart started pounding. Signed by who? I clicked on the first tracking detail. There was a signature on file. I zoomed in, and my breath caught in my throat. I knew that handwriting. I'd seen it my whole life. The looping F. The dramatic flourish at the end. The way the letters pressed hard into the line, like she was making sure everyone noticed. Felicity. My hands went numb. I opened the next file. Same signature. Next one. Same. I went through all 12 invitations, my stomach dropping further with each one. Every single one had been signed for by my sister. She didn't just intercept one envelope by accident. She took all of them. Deliberately. Systematically. I sat there staring at my phone screen, and suddenly everything made sense. Every missing card. Every lost package. Every time I'd reached out and gotten nothing back. It wasn't me. It wasn't that I didn't matter. She'd been erasing me. I grabbed my keys and left my apartment because I couldn't sit still. I ended up at that diner near my building at 3 in the morning because I couldn't stay home. I needed to be somewhere with lights and people and noise. The fries in front of me went cold. Outside, someone was scraping ice off their windshield, and the sound was the only thing keeping me grounded. I pulled up the full tracking logs. Every package was delivered to Felicity's building on the same day, within a 2-hour window. Same signature. Over and over. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. Then it hit me like a freight train. All those other times. The birthday card my mom said never arrived 3 years ago. The Christmas gift that must have gotten lost last year. The framed photo of me and Dad from a fishing trip that I sent for Father's Day and was told it never showed up. Those weren't accidents. Those weren't postal errors. Felicity had been doing this for years. Intercepting anything I sent, making sure I stayed invisible, making sure I stayed small. Making sure I never got close to the family she thought belonged only to her. The anger that hit me wasn't hot and explosive. It was cold, clear. The kind that sharpens everything. I printed everything. The tracking pages. The signatures. The delivery logs. All of it. My little printer churned out page after page until I had this neat stack of evidence sitting on my kitchen table at 4 in the morning. I slipped it all into a folder and just stared at it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't scared. I wasn't even sad anymore. I was done being invisible. Thanksgiving was in a week. And this time, I wasn't going to disappear. Those 7 days felt both endless and too short. I went through my normal routine, work, doctor's appointments, nursery prep, but everything felt different. Like I was standing on the edge of something that was going to change everything. I thought about backing out. Maybe 100 times. Maybe more. Part of me wanted to just let it go. To be the bigger person. To swallow it like I'd swallowed everything else. But then I'd think about my baby. About what kind of person I wanted to be for this kid. And I knew I couldn't teach them to stand up for themselves if I never did it myself. When Thanksgiving came, I walked into my parents' house with that folder tucked under my arm like armor. The place looked like it always did. Warm lighting, turkey smell, relatives crowding around the table, my mom's good china laid out. But everything felt different to me. Sharper. Clearer. Like I was seeing it all for the first time without the fog of hoping things would change. My mom spotted me first. "There she is," she said, with that smile that looked warm but never quite reached her eyes. The smile she gave me when other people were watching. Felicity glanced over from her spot at the table, one hand resting on her 7-month belly like she was posing for Instagram. She looked happy. Comfortable. Like the world was exactly as it should be. I took my seat across from them and put the folder under my chair. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. For once, the silence belonged to me. Dinner started the way it always did. Small talk about the weather. Clinking silverware. My mom going on and on about Felicity's nursery theme, some trendy forest animal thing she'd spent thousands on, while my dad nodded along like a bobblehead. Nobody asked about my pregnancy. Nobody asked if I was ready. If I was scared. If I needed anything. It was like I wasn't even 6 months pregnant. Like I didn't exist. An aunt asked Felicity about baby names. A cousin wanted to know about her registry. My mom jumped in with stories about shopping trips they'd taken together. I sat there eating turkey that tasted like cardboard, watching them fawn over Felicity, and I felt nothing. No hurt. No surprise. Just clarity. Then it happened. My mom turned to me, voice loud enough for half the table to hear, and said, "Why didn't you come to your sister's baby shower?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. A couple relatives stopped eating. My uncle's fork hung in midair. Felicity's lips curved into this little smirk, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Like she wanted to watch me squirm. This was my moment. I folded my napkin carefully and set it beside my plate. "I had mine too," I said, voice steady and clear. "You were all invited." The reaction was instant. Someone gasped. My dad blinked like he'd misheard. My mom's face scrunched up, offended. "We never got anything," she said, and there was accusation in her voice. Like I was lying. Like I was making things up for attention. Like I was the problem. There it was. The denial she thought would protect her. The assumption that I was the one who'd failed. I reached down, grabbed the folder, and placed it on the table. The sound wasn't loud, but every eye in the room locked onto it. "I know," I said. "That's why I brought these." My mom's eyebrows pulled together. Felicity sat up straighter, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not quite fear yet, but close. A few cousins leaned in, curious now. I opened the folder slowly and laid out the first page. Tracking logs. Delivery confirmations. All lined up neat and clean. "This is the delivery history for every invitation I sent," I said, keeping my voice even. "Matter of fact." Felicity scoffed. "Jasmine, seriously." I held up my hand. "Just look." My mom grabbed the paper, scanning the lines. Her eyes moved fast at first, then slowed. Delivered. 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 All to Felicity's building. All on the same day. "That doesn't prove anything," Felicity snapped, but her voice had an edge now. A tightness that wasn't there before. I slid out the next stack. Delivery confirmations with timestamps and routes. Then I laid out the signature pages like I was dealing cards in a game she didn't know she'd already lost. "These show who signed for the packages." The room went dead silent. 12 signature lines. 12 identical signatures. All in Felicity's looping, dramatic handwriting. My mom covered her mouth. My dad leaned in, squinting at the papers like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. An aunt whispered, "Oh my God." A cousin exchanged a look with his wife. Felicity's chair scraped against the floor as she jerked back. "This is ridiculous. Anyone could have." "They could have," I said, cutting her off. My voice didn't rise. Didn't waver. But they didn't. I pushed the top sheet toward her. "Every signature matches. Yours." Felicity's face drained of color. For the first time in my life, I watched my sister look small. Scared. "You're twisting this," she said, voice getting higher. "You don't know." "I know you didn't want me to have a baby shower that mattered," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "I know you intercepted every invitation. I know my family didn't ignore me, they just never had the chance to show up. Because you made sure of it." My dad's jaw clenched. "Felicity," he said carefully, like he was approaching something dangerous. "Why would you?" "Dad, stop," she snapped. "She's being dramatic. She's always like this. She's jealous of me." "This isn't jealousy," I said, and something in my voice made her stop. "This is your signature on 12 separate deliveries. This is proof that you've been erasing me for years." My mom rounded on Felicity, voice shaking. "Did you do this? Tell me right now. Did you sign for Jasmine's invitations?" Felicity's breathing picked up. Her hand started shaking on the table. "You always take her side when she plays victim. She's had everything so easy while I've had to work for every bit of attention." I almost laughed. The sound came out sharp and humorless. "Easy?" I said. "You mean growing up invisible? You mean watching every accomplishment I had turn into a conversation about you? You mean sitting alone at my own baby shower, 6 months pregnant, wondering if my family hated me that much?" The room held its breath. You could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. My dad rubbed his forehead, and when he looked at Felicity, there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Disappointment. Real, deep disappointment. Felicity, he said quietly. This isn't right. This is. I don't even know what this is. My mom was still staring at the signatures, and I watched her whole face crack, the realization hitting her in waves. I can't believe I didn't know. I can't believe I never asked. You didn't ask, I said quietly. But I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to stop pretending this didn't happen. Felicity shoved her chair back, the legs screeching against the floor. You're trying to embarrass me. You planned this whole thing to humiliate me in front of everyone. I didn't plan your actions, I said. Just the moment I stopped letting them stay hidden. Something shifted in the room then. Relatives who'd always seen me as the quiet one, the boring one, were looking at me like they were seeing me for the first time. Really seeing me. And when they looked at Felicity, that usual admiration was gone. Replaced by something colder. Something she'd never had to face before. Judgment. Felicity stood up, tears gathering in her eyes. I'm done with this. I don't deserve to be ambushed while pregnant. This is cruel. What's cruel, I said, standing too, is stealing someone's chance to feel loved. What's cruel is making me think my family didn't care enough to show up when you made sure they never could. She grabbed her purse, nearly knocking into a relative on her way out. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Silence settled again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't mine to carry. My mom couldn't look at me. Her hands were shaking on the table. My dad exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. I gathered the papers carefully and put them back in the folder. I didn't need applause. I didn't need them to pick sides. I didn't need anything from them anymore. The truth had already done what it needed to do. My dad walked over and stopped a step away. His eyes were red. Jasmine, he said softly. I'm sorry. I should have noticed. I should have asked questions. I should have protected you better. It wasn't a grand apology. But coming from a man who'd spent his whole life avoiding conflict, it was enough. It was real. I know, I said. My mom finally looked up at me, and there were tears on her face. Real tears this time, not the performative kind. I didn't know she was doing this. I swear I didn't know. But you never wondered why I stopped trying so hard, I said. Not angry. Just honest. You never asked why I got quiet. Why I stopped calling as much. You just let it happen because it was easier than paying attention. She nodded, unable to speak. And maybe that was progress. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, it wasn't my job to make her feel better about it anymore. I'm going home, I said, keeping my voice steady. Some relatives nodded at me as I walked past. Small gestures, but they felt real. An aunt touched my arm. A cousin said, I'm sorry, Jasmine. I should have reached out. I stepped outside into the cold evening air. It bit at my face, sharp and honest and clean. And for the first time in a long time, the silence felt like mine. I walked to my car with the folder under my arm, and something inside me felt different. Lighter. Not because I'd won something or proven anything, but because I'd finally stopped carrying the weight of other people's choices. I didn't win anything tonight. I just stopped losing. And sitting in my car in my parents' driveway, I put my hand on my stomach and felt the baby kick. We're going to be okay, I said out loud. I'm going to make sure you never feel invisible. That was enough. Thanks for listening, and if you like this story, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about family betrayal, finding your voice, and finally standing up for yourself. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to stay invisible.